A knock at 3 a.m. Foods. That was all it took to vanish a person forever. No trial, no warning, no goodbye. In one nation, on one continent, within living memory, an entire population was taught to fear their own neighbors, their own children, their own reflection in the mirror. Husbands informed on wives, sons informed on fathers, teachers informed on students who dared to whisper a joke about the government. By the time this system collapsed, it had built files on nearly 1 out of every 3 citizens, a paper trail so vast that, laid end to end, it would stretch for over 100 miles. Rooms of steamed open letters, recordings of bedroom conversations, photographs taken through keyholes. This was not fiction. This was not a warning from some dystopian novel. This was a real government, operating in the heart of Europe, that believed it could own not just your body, but your mind, your fears, and even your innermost thoughts before you dared to speak them aloud. And the most terrifying part? Most of the people trapped inside it never saw it coming. They thought they were free until the day they discovered they never had been. How does a society sleepwalk into total control, one quiet compromise at a time, and never notice the door locking behind them? Stay with us. Picture a divided city, cut in half by concrete and barbed wire, where one side lived under watchtowers and searchlights. This is East Germany, in the decades following the Second World War. A nation rebuilt not on freedom, but on obedience. Its leaders promised equality, promised safety, promised a fresh start after the horrors of fascism. Instead, they built something just as suffocating in a different disguise. At the center of it stood the Ministry for State Security, known simply and infamously as the Stasi. Its founders called it the shield and sword of the ruling party. In truth, it became something closer to a nervous system that reached into every home, every classroom, every church pew. Recruitment began early. Children in youth groups were taught to report disloyalty. Employees were pressured into watching coworkers. Even priests, doctors, and lovers were turned into informants, sometimes willingly, sometimes through blackmail, sometimes through sheer terror of what refusal might cost them. Ordinary apartments concealed hidden microphones behind wallpaper. Ordinary mailboxes fed directly into steaming rooms, where letters were opened, read, resealed, and sent on their way, as if nothing had happened. And here is the detail that still makes historians pause. The Stasi did not only want to catch enemies of the state, it wanted to prevent people from ever becoming one, by making sure no one ever trusted anyone enough to plan resistance in the first place. Silence was engineered, block by block, until an entire nation policed itself. But the machinery you have just seen was only the surface. Beneath it sat a secret so methodical that even the officers who built it never predicted how far it would reach. Here is the truth that took decades to fully surface. By the late 1980s, the Stasi employed roughly 91,000 full-time officers, but that number is almost meaningless next to the real weapon of the regime, an estimated 189,000 unofficial informants, embedded quietly inside families, workplaces, and friendship circles. Some estimates suggest that, counting part-time collaborators, the true number climbed even higher, one informant for every 63 citizens in the entire country. Compare that to Hitler's Gestapo, which relied on roughly one officer for every 2,000 people. This was surveillance on a scale the world had never fully documented before. Officers developed something chillingly clinical, a doctrine known as Zersetzung, meaning decomposition. Instead of arresting a dissident and creating a martyr, agents would quietly destroy a person's life from the inside, spreading rumors of infidelity, sabotaging careers, rearranging furniture inside apartments just slightly, so the target would begin to doubt their own memory, their own sanity. Files reveal cases of citizens driven to breakdowns, marriages dissolved by manufactured suspicion, careers ended by anonymous letters no one could trace. And then comes the detail that redefines everything. After reunification, When the vaults were finally opened, the investigators discovered something almost incomprehensible. If unrolled and placed in a single line, the surviving paper files would stretch for approximately 111 kilometers, nearly 70 miles of documented human lives, whispered confessions, private betrayals, all catalogued with bureaucratic precision. Some citizens later learned their own spouse had filed reports on them for years. Some learned their closest childhood friend had been assigned to watch them since adolescence. The truth did not just expose a government. It exposed how thoroughly trust itself had been weaponized and how a government could occupy the most private corners of a person's life without ever laying a hand on them. When the Berlin Wall fell in November 1989, the illusion did not collapse quietly. Citizens stormed Stasi headquarters, desperate to stop officers from shredding evidence of what had been done to them. Some rooms were found ankle-deep in torn paper, hastily destroyed in the final panicked hours. What survived became one of the largest archives of state surveillance ever opened to the public. And for the first time, ordinary Germans were allowed to request their own files, to sit in a quiet room, and read, in cold official language, exactly who had betrayed them and how. Some informants faced social exile once their names surfaced. A small number faced prosecution, but many simply returned to ordinary life, their identities protected by faded paperwork or destroyed files, never held fully accountable for what they had done to friends, siblings, and spouses. For the victims, there was rarely closure, only the quiet, permanent knowledge of exactly how much of their private life had never been private at all. And this is why it still matters now. The tools that took the Stasi decades to build by hand, informants, wiretaps, paper trails, exist today in forms exponentially more powerful. Every phone in your pocket can track location, conversation, and behavior with a precision the Stasi could only have dreamed of. The technology has changed almost beyond recognition. The deeper question, how much of our own lives are we willing to hand over, and to whom, has not gone away. It has only grown more urgent, quietly following each of us into rooms the Stasi could never have entered. Our pockets, our browsers, our most private late-night thoughts, typed and sent without a second glance at who might be reading. The wall fell. The instinct to watch never fully did. Every collapsed regime leaves behind the same quiet warning. Control does not arrive as an invasion. It arrives disguised as safety, as order, as the promise that watching everyone will protect everyone. It grows one small surrender at a time, until fear feels normal, and silence feels like survival. The Stasi did not fall because its machinery failed. It fell because human beings, even after years of engineered mistrust, eventually chose truth over fear, and stood outside those doors demanding answers. That is the part of this story worth remembering. That even the most total systems of control are built by ordinary people, sustained by ordinary silence, and can be unbuilt by ordinary people too, the moment enough of them decide that fear is no longer worth the price of their freedom. So we leave you with this question, one this history refuses to let go of. If someone was quietly watching every part of your life today, would you even notice before it was too late? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And if this story left you unsettled, subscribe, because history has more of these buried truths waiting to be exposed.